Hey guys, it is me, Tanya, founder of the TNG Designs Group Limited. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Now, in this particular video, we are going to be talking about what it is that makes clients say yes, and equally the hidden trust triggers that a lot of people, unfortunately, are actually killing when it comes to their brand. I'm not talking about killing in the good way, I'm talking about killing in the bad kind of a way. So pay attention to all of what I've got to share with you, and I want to make sure that you are equally not killing those particular trust triggers, simply because they are key things that a lot of people tend to overlook, and it's very easy to overlook them if you're not paying attention to them in the right kind of a way. So pay attention to them, understand them, and use them to help you to boost the awareness of what it is that you're doing, and more specifically why it is that you're doing, so you can start making those better connections with the right kind of a people, not the people that you feel that you have to work with, but the people that you really want to be working with, and equally making those better connections amongst your peers, your collaborators, and then some. So folks, as always, stick around to the very end, because I've got a super cool way to make sure that all of what I'm sharing with you today in this particular video, you can continue to do so even after the fact of watching this particular video. So with that in mind, also make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel, because as always, I want to make sure as many people as possible know that they are more than what they see. You are more than what you see. And I want to make sure that you know and understand that, because when you understand these things, all of what I share with you, especially I always talk about what's known as your brand power of 3. When you understand what these key things are, you start building the foundation of your brand all the more stronger. And more specifically, you start building a brand that actually suits you specifically, not your competitor, not the person who's down the road, not the average Joe Blogs or even Jesse Blogs down the road. No. It suits you specifically, in a way that allows you to start talking about your brand, talking about what it is that you're doing with certainty, with clarity more specifically, and in a way that allows you to stand true to your standards and your beliefs. So with that in mind, make sure that you always go ahead and subscribe to this channel. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and share it as well. And so folks, without further ado, let's get into the idea of what makes clients say yes, and what those hidden trust triggers are within your brand. Okay, so let's get into it. So obviously we're going to be talking about the idea of what makes clients say yes, and what those hidden trust triggers are, especially when it comes to your brand. Now, trust triggers, when I talk about trust triggers, I'm talking about the idea of all the key things that help your client to start paying attention even more. Whether they're coming across you on social media, whether they've come across you in live and in person, whatever that aspect may be, use these things, all of what I'm about to share with you, to your advantage. Use them to help you. Use them to help elevate your brand even more so that these yeses become all the more apparent, but more so these yeses are yeses that you're actually excited about. So first and foremost, before we actually get stuck into all of what I'm about to share with you, know that trust is always going to be built on familiarity, consistency, and alignment. So familiarity, consistency, and alignment. What do those things even mean? Well, know that without them, your brand is going to start falling by the wayside, simply because you haven't paid enough attention to them. Your brand isn't going to be getting the awareness that you're actually looking for, and your brand is not going to therefore be getting the recognition that it actually deserves. So first and foremost, before we actually get into the whole of what this all is, so you've got to know that familiarity, consistency, and alignment are all of what builds up trust in the first place when it comes to your brand. Now obviously I'm going to be talking a lot more about each and every one of these points, and I'm also going to be talking about the killers in each of one of these points. Now let's just get stuck into it. So familiarity, what does that even mean, especially when it comes to branding, and especially when it comes to building trust, and why clients will typically say yes when it comes to the familiarity aspect. Oh, it's a bit of a tongue twister, but yes. But when it comes to the familiarity aspect, the reason why clients say yes is because you've 9 times out of 10 tapped into an emotion. Now, an emotion is always what's going to trump logic when it comes to the idea of familiarity. Emotion, when you talk about emotion, you're talking about a familiar time in somebody's life, a familiar nostalgic moment that people can always tap back into within their memories. It's those trigger moments that allow somebody to pay attention even more, because now they're building up that commonality factor. You know, I always talk about commonality factors. Your commonality factors, your familiarity, your emotion that you're actually bringing to the table when it comes to these things. They're typically shared in stories, or your credibility elements, the point from where you started to where you are right now, what that actually means to yourself and then some. Those parts in your journey, when you're actually able to share them, are what's going to be the trigger points for your clients to start saying yes rather than I'm not entirely sure. And with familiarity and the idea of emotion as well, you got to think of it, the idea of the battle of the gut and the brain. So you're always going to be thinking that when people buy from you, or when people want to understand what it is that you're doing, they're always going to be tapping into that gut feeling first. That's their values. What is it that's resonating with them more specifically? And obviously I'm going to be talking about alignment shortly. However, what's resonating with them shortly will naturally sit well with them. Then the brain aspect, where the logic element comes into it, is where it actually confirms that connection. It confirms whether or not, you know what, yes, go for it. Lead with that emotion. I always talk to you guys about leading with your values specifically. Your emotion comes from your values, so lead with that. And equally, the people who are coming in front of your brand, who are being made aware of what it is that you're doing, will also be doing the same thing, whether they know it or not. And so now, let's go into consistency, the next thing, right? So consistency in showing up more specifically, whether that's how you're looking on social media in terms of like your colors, your fonts, the visual aspect of it, or as how you're actually presenting yourself by with your message, by way of your being, your unique human point. You know, I always talk about that element. How are you consistently showing up? For me, when I consistently showed up as myself, as my brand, as my values, as what it is, my vision, my purpose, and what it is that I do and why it is I specifically do it, when I consistently show up as that, I start getting recognized even more so. To the point where, depending on when you're actually watching this, not too long ago, I actually received an award for doing so. Because I consistently showed up, and I didn't think anybody was paying attention, but at the same time, somebody was. People were. So, when people are silently watching you, they're still watching you, they have eyes on you. The governing bodies who you think wouldn't be thinking anything of it, they're watching you. So help them to see what it is that's great about you, what's brilliant about you, in fact, and why it is that you really do help people in the way you do. So, consistently show up, and equally, just as I said before, make sure that you are using that familiarity element to be able to reinforce what it is that you do to allow people to say yes even more. And when it comes to your buyers, your clients, right? Just remember that people buy because they trust you, and it's not necessarily because they know you. I know a lot of people, but not everybody buys from me, do you know? So what is it for you? So you got to make sure that you're using all of what I've just shared with you as well, those particular trust triggers, to help to reinforce that yes even more so. So we've spoken about familiarity and emotion, and then also we've spoken about the idea of consistency and showing up, okay? Now, this next trigger, this next trust trigger more specifically, especially when it comes to the idea of why people say yes or why clients say yes to you. It's always going to be down to the fact of representation, but more specifically alignment with that representation. So when people align with what it is that you're saying, you've naturally represented something in yourself, showing them. So they see themselves in you, and they see themselves in your journey. They see themselves in what it is that you're doing. When you allow your client, your prospect at that point, right before they become a client, when you allow them to see themselves in you, what it is that you're doing, you're naturally representing something that they aspire to be. So help them to recognize what that is within yourself. So for me, for example, Black woman, Black female entrepreneur, doing amazing things with what it is that she is doing, right? So that means that other people who look like me can also see themselves in me, can also see themselves in their own journey. So because I've done things and I've achieved things and I've gained accolades and I've worked with so many clients, and specific clients more importantly, now other Black female entrepreneurs, other Black female leaders can also do the same because they see themselves in myself. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Now, here's the other thing though. The other type of people who also see themselves within me, in the sense where they feel a sense of representation, could be those who have also had a past similar to mine. The similarities being also made redundant or being let go from work, not knowing what your future holds essentially, but at the same time knowing that where you were isn't where you should be right now. And then also they could also be seeing the element of making sure that they are making the right moves in the right kind of a way, but more purposeful right moves. That's the other thing. It's the idea of motivation, and it's the idea of motivation in the knowing that they keep pushing forwards, but pushing forwards in a directive kind of way. So there's a lot of things that a lot of people will see within me, see within my journey, see within the way that I work, and why it is I work the way I do. They will see themselves in me. So what is it for you? What are you showcasing, or in some senses not showcasing? Be open to showcase what that is, because so many people will resonate, will trust, will believe, will understand the reason why they also need to be making moves themselves. And I'm going to repeat this again, folks. Emotion will beat logic all the time. I know I've just shared that with you, but you've got to really understand that, simply because when you are aligning with somebody, when you are again creating that level of emotion that allows familiarity to be had, but more so when you are being consistent in the way that you are showing up and representing a source of progress that others most definitely need to see, you've got to allow yourself to show up in that kind of a way so that you can keep doing the do, so that you can keep moving forward, so that you can keep making sure that all clients who are going to be working with you say yes to you, simply because they also recognize you as being the right fit. And with that in mind, all of these things that I've just shared with you are key things, or even key testimonies as to why trust is one hell of a currency when it comes to branding. Pay attention to it. These trust triggers, the things that you could equally do to kill those trust triggers, be aware of what they are, because it's very easy to cross that line and eliminate all of the hard work you've put in simply because you haven't paid enough attention to familiarity and emotion, the consistency in how you're showing up, and then also your source of representation and alignment element. So those trust triggers, pay attention to them, use them to your advantage, and with that in mind, make sure you do this next thing as well to help reinforce all of what I've just shared with you. That's tapping into my 6 key principles. Now, my 6 key principles are what you're going to be needing in order to make sure that your brand keeps elevating more and more and more, but not only elevating, leveling up in a way that's congruent to your standards and your beliefs. Because I'm sure you'll agree, your industry, super saturated. Mine is too. However, what makes you different, what makes you uniquely you, is the fact that you have a brand power of a 3 that literally pays attention to who you are as a brand and allows others to also pay attention to who you are as a brand. With understanding what that brand power of 3 and these principles will help you to understand and establish what that actually is for yourself, even if you feel like you know it, it will help to reinforce it, or equally help you to understand why it wasn't what you thought it was. And with that in mind, it's going to help you to understand how you can make better connections, but better connections in a way that allows you to attract the right kind of a client, the ones that you actually want to work with, and allows you to understand what your people pools are, meaning those who are either your collaborators, your connections, or even your clients once again, but doing so in a way that you're actually speaking a language that helps them to understand you even more, simply because you understood exactly who they are. So, in order to access all of that, all you'll need to do is click on that very first link that's in the description box below this video. Click on that link, go through all of what I had to share with you, and take advantage of what information is in there, simply because I know we're in the age of information overload, AI overload, everything, all that you can imagine that's coming at you. But imagine having a simple, clear-cut and concise bit of information that literally gets to the point directly. And it helps you to not only move forwards today, but also tomorrow and continuously, and to help build up that cycle of sustainability that allows you to keep going further and further and further. And once you actually tap into those things, do this next thing for me, reach out to me and actually DM me and let me know, how did you get on? Because I want to know, I want to make sure this information is doing you the service that it has done, not only for myself, but equally for all others that I've helped as well. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. Make sure once again you go ahead and like, subscribe to this channel, and I will see you on the other side.